You've worked your entire life to build something meaningful, right? So the big question is, how do you protect it for the people you care about most? Well, today we're diving right into estate planning. It's basically the essential toolkit for making sure your legacy is secure.
It seems like a pretty simple question, doesn't it? But the answer can get surprisingly complicated. And that's because if you haven't made a plan for your assets, well, the state has one for you.
Look, here's the reality. Everybody has an estate plan. The only question is it your plan or is it the default one the state makes for you? With your plan, you're in the driver's seat. With the state's plan, the legal system completely takes over, and that often leads to outcomes you never ever would have wanted.
So, let's take a closer look at this default plan, shall we? This is the one you get automatically if you don't create your own. It's truly the plan most people don't even realize they have.
The legal term for this whole situation is intestacy. It's a fancy word that just means dying without a valid will. And when that happens, your state's laws, not your personal wishes, are what determine how every single piece of your property gets distributed. You're completely out of the decision-making process. Let's make this real. Imagine a super common family situation. You've got a spouse and 2 kids. Now, most of us would just assume the spouse automatically inherits everything, right? But that's very often not what happens under these intestacy laws. And here is where the state's plan can be genuinely shocking. In many places, your spouse would only get about 1/3 of your estate. The other 2/3, it would go directly to your children. I mean, think about that. This could create a huge financial problem for your partner, an outcome you almost certainly never intended. And oh, the surprises don't stop there. If you have a spouse but no kids, your parents could actually end up with half of your assets. If you have no living relatives at all, the state takes everything. And in all of these scenarios, a court appoints a stranger to manage your affairs, which just adds more costs and more delays, all paid for, you guessed it, out of your estate. So, how do you dodge the state's plan and take back the wheel? Well, it all starts with the most fundamental tool in all of estate planning, a last will and testament. This document is your instruction manual for everything that happens next. A will gives you 3 absolutely critical powers. First, you decide exactly who gets what. No guessing. Second, you name your executor. That's the trusted person who's going to carry out your wishes. And third, and for parents, this is arguably the most important one, you appoint a guardian to care for your minor children. This really, really gets to the heart of it. If you don't name a guardian in a will, a judge will make that choice for you. And for any parent out there, this is one of the single biggest reasons to get a plan in place. You want to be the one making that decision, nobody else. But, deciding who gets your assets is really only half the battle. We also have to protect how much they get. A major challenge here is something called estate shrinkage, and that's all the costs that can literally eat away at your legacy before it ever reaches your family. To see how this works, let's just start with a hypothetical estate of $1 million, okay? This is the amount you're leaving behind, but it is not the amount your family is necessarily going to receive. Before your heirs see a simple dime, the estate has to pay the bills. Slices of the pie get taken out for lawyers, for appraisers, for any outstanding debts, and for probate costs. That's the public court process for settling an estate. What's left over is what actually gets distributed. So your goal is to make that final slice as big as humanly possible. So how do you minimize those costs? Well, one of the most powerful tools out there is a living trust. A trust is just a legal arrangement that holds your assets for you. And because the trust owns the assets, not you directly, they can often bypass that entire expensive and time-consuming public probate process. Now, there are 2 main types of these living trusts. A revocable trust is super flexible. You keep control, you can change it anytime you want. But because you still control it, the assets are considered part of your taxable estate. On the other hand, an irrevocable trust is permanent. You give up control, but in exchange, the assets are taken out of your estate, which can give you some pretty significant tax benefits. It's a trade-off. And speaking of taxes, that brings us to the final major goal of estate planning. For larger estates, this is all about legally minimizing the amount that has to be paid in estate taxes to the government. Now, you might see this number for the 2024 federal exemption, over $13.5 million per person, and think, okay, phew, this doesn't apply to me. And for a lot of people, that's true, at the federal level. But, and this is a really crucial point,
Many states have their own separate estate tax, and their exemption amounts are much, much lower. Some start at just $1 million. This means state estate taxes are a real concern for way more families than the federal tax is.
So what can you do? Well, two really powerful strategies are the marital deduction, which lets you transfer an unlimited amount to your spouse tax-free, and lifetime gifting. This lets you give away a certain amount, it's $18,000 in 2024, to as many people as you want every single year, which shrinks the size of your taxable estate over time.
Phew, we have covered a lot of ground. So let's wrap this all up by summarizing the essential toolkit you need to build a really effective estate plan. So here they are, the core tools in your toolkit. A will gives you that fundamental control. Trusts can help you avoid probate and manage taxes. Gifting reduces your estate size while you're still here. And finally, life insurance. It plays a very unique role. It provides instant cash to your heirs so they can pay any taxes or expenses without being forced to sell off other assets. You know, at the end of the day, all of these tools and strategies, they all serve one main purpose. This isn't just about numbers and legal documents. It's really an act of love. It's a way to make an incredibly difficult time just a little bit easier for the people you care about most. So, the final thought I want to leave you with is this. Your legacy is more than just your money. It's the final chapter of your story. The only question left is, will you be the one to write it, or will you let the state write it for you? Thanks for tuning in.